Hi guys, this is Richard and Robert Robinson, the Robinson twins. You're looking at the Steamboat Geyser, which is in the Norris Geyser Basin in Yellowstone National Park. The Norris Geyser Basin is kind of in the northwestern central part of the park and is described as the hottest thermal basin in Yellowstone. We've been visiting Steamboat Geyser since the very first time we visited Yellowstone National Park, which is in 1974. Then on March 15th, 2018, Steamboat Geyser had a major eruption after a 3.5-year hiatus. That was followed about 36 days later with another major eruption. And since then, Steamboat Geyser has been averaging somewhere between 1 and 2 weeks between eruptions. So it's entered a very active phase of major eruptions. And when I found that out, I knew that we had to go to Yellowstone and make sure we got to see one of Steamboat's major eruptions. So this video is all about the trip we took to Yellowstone to see a Steamboat Geyser major eruption. So what's so special about Steamboat Geyser? Well, it just happens to be the world's tallest active geyser that can send columns of water 300 feet into the air. Steamboat Geyser also happens to be a very unpredictable geyser. It's had intervals between major eruptions as short as about 3 days to as long as 50 years. So when we learned that it was entering this active phase, we knew that this was probably our best chance of ever seeing a major eruption at Steamboat. We arrived in Yellowstone on July 27th, late in the day, with just enough time to set up our campsite at the Madison Campground, and then go enjoy the sunset at the fountain paint pots, which will be the subject of a separate video. Then on July 28th, we staked out Steamboat Geyser for 10 hours and just saw it doing what you see here, steaming away and kicking up some water once in a while. Then on July 29th, we were there at Steamboat for 12 hours before we finally decided to just go ahead and stay there all night long and hope to catch a major eruption. So Steamboat Geyser doesn't just send up one column of water like, say, Old Faithful does. It has a north vent on the left, a little rock mound, orange-colored rock mound called E.T. because it looks like the movie character. And then to the right is the south vent that both send up columns of water. During minor eruptions, Steamboat's columns of water will go off at an angle, especially from the north vent, which tends to have more volume all the time compared to the south vent. Now the geyser gazers, a group of volunteers who watch the geysers all the time and kind of monitor their activity, say that when the 2 columns of water from each vent becomes more vertical and shows a greater volume, that's a sign that it's building toward a major eruption.
We stayed that third day overnight because one of the geyser gazers told us he was seeing the signs that he thought meant it could go any day. So we took him at his word and stayed all the way through the night.
So we were waiting for Steamboat Geyser to erupt at night. Didn't know to do it during the day, so what can you do? You wait it out. It did cloud up and rain on us around 1 or 1:30 a.m. So we sought refuge in our car and went back at 3:30. We did see some interesting sights overnight and get some interesting shots like this one where it looks like there's a plane up in the sky that for some reason did a circle. Well, Steamboat Geyser didn't erupt overnight, which was okay by us because we would have preferred to see it by the light. And it did start to brighten up before it erupted, and of course Steamboat was still teasing us with minor eruptions. The sky had a few puffy clouds from last night's storm. But then as the sun started to rise, a fog set in, and the steam from steamboats sort of blended in with the fog. After 7 a.m., both vents looked like they were putting out quite a bit of water, and it was looking rather promising. But then at about 7:20, with Bob at the upper observation deck, this finally happened.
No, this is what I never tried to do this last year. Oh, really? No.
Steamboat Geyser eruption. Oh, just a massive fog from here. 7:20. And of course it soon rained down on Bob and his camera gear. So he moved down to the lower observation deck where Rick was, and this is the perspective we got of the eruption. This channel carrying heavy flows of water out of the north vent during the eruption was completely dry before eruption started. The geyser gazers told us that the Steamboat Geyser's major eruption could go anywhere from 40 to 60 minutes, alternating between water phases and steam phases before finally settling into a steam phase that could last another 23 hours.
Now look at the sun coming through the mist.
As the sun rose, it helped dissipate the fog, so we got a clearer view of the two columns of water coming from Steamboat Geyser's vents. If the wind is blowing toward the parking lot, the silica-rich water from Steamboat Geyser can rain down on cars in the parking lot. And that's why the geyser gazers who know about this put car covers on their cars when they're parked here.
I'm glad I moved my car. I'm glad I moved my car.
Yeah, well, we're probably getting rained on.
Yeah, but not as bad as where it was.
Besides raining down on the upper observation deck, Steamboat also occasionally rained down on the lower deck as well.
Rained on again. Artist at work. I just got some.
The rangers told us that the reason why the barricades are there on the lower deck is because during a major eruption back in June, Steamboat Geyser kicked out a rock that landed right on top of the Steamboat Geyser sign and knocked it off and broke it in half. They keep it at the visitor center so you can see it for yourself. The Geyser Gazers and the Rangers all were saying that when Steamboat Geyser is having a major eruption, it sounds like a jet engine. Well, to me, it sounded more like the churning of a sternwheeler steamboat, churning through water, which seems appropriate. One thing the Geyser Gazers didn't tell us about was what you're about to see. Steamboat Geyser in its major eruption will actually pause and restart.
Well, it rained at 1 in the morning. Oh, yeah. I went to the car, rested, and came back. Wait. It might come back. It fooled you. Oh, and it's even stronger than the last time.
It started up 2 other times.
It's the third startup it's had. It has minor eruptions that can go 30 feet, 40 feet.
Okay,
so
sporadic.
Which is actually kind of bigger than some other geysers do.
Yeah, as we heard, this is the one to see. Is what I've heard.
Yeah.
Even more than cold pig.
Oh yeah, but you never know. I mean, like we've tried. This is our 3rd day here trying to see this.
You're the lucky charm.
We spent 10 hours 2 days ago, 12 hours yesterday, and then today is 8:30 a.m. till now. Is it gonna pause or actually stop? This might be. Is it gonna come back? Is it gonna come back? Yes, it is.
While we were enjoying the major eruption of Steamboat, we noticed a bird flew in and looked at all that steam and said, "Nope, that's not the way to go." So we already knew that Steamboat Geyser occasionally throws a rock or two out during its eruptions, and we managed to see a few, including this one.
like it might pause.
The second finale!
Actually, it's the third finale. Yeah. Wow. This could be the end. Probably not though. Or it's not. Wow. Woo. Dang. Really getting in there now.
Here's the perspective of the runoff channel for the south vent of Steamboat Geyser during one of its pauses and restarts. While we were there, we counted 8 different times that Steamboat Geyser paused and restarted its major eruption. Eventually, Bob hiked the back loop of the Norris Geyser Basin to get a farther perspective away from Steamboat Geyser and get an idea of just how tall the steam plume was coming out of it. Thanks for watching our Robinson Twins production.